Lately, I've collected quite a few old clothes. It may seem like a very strange hobby. I already had a few things at home, others I bought just for a few dollars in Goodwill. Of course, I wasn't looking for clothes, I was looking for materials for a new textile piece. Even today, I went to a thrift store. I really enjoy looking at fabrics, I like to touch them. Some of the clothes are just terrible, but the fabrics themselves, they can have a very interesting texture. Some garments I can simply take apart along the seams and copy an easy pattern. Why not, since it's already in my size? Why make things more difficult than they need to be? The fabrics I've collected will become a new textile piece. This time, it will be mostly red, gray, and black. Red makes me think of life, of energy, blood, and movement, of something that is still flowing. And gray? Gray is probably that proverbial grayness of everyday life. Ordinary days, work, shopping, bills, cleaning, phone calls that need to be made, and things that need to be taken care of. For example, I went to get an oil change in my car, and suddenly I was presented with a list of repairs at a rather impressive price. Situations of more or less importance somehow manage to take up an enormous part of our life. I suppose most of life is actually like that, not red, gray. When I started placing these materials next to each other, I thought that perhaps there is no reason to fight against all that grayness, because without the gray, the red wouldn't be nearly as visible. The first square I started building is a little like a city, but seen from above. I don't want to make a real map, just something that resembles one. Streets, intersections, lines that begin somewhere, cross one another, and then suddenly disappear. As I looked at it, I thought that life looks very much the same. When we are down there, standing on the street, we can see very little. We see only what is directly in front of us: a problem, a person, one conversation, one thing that has just gone wrong. And sometimes that one thing becomes so large that it blocks everything else from view. Just like this one building that can block the view of the entire city. If somehow we could rise a little higher and look down at our own lives from above, perhaps we would see something completely different. We would see a map. There would be roads we have traveled for many years. There would be dead ends, places we kept returning to, even though there was really no reason to go there anymore. There would be intersections where we made a decision and went in other direction, never finding out what might have been waiting for us down the road. There would be also roads we never planned to take. And perhaps only from above could we see that something that once seems like an enormous detour actually took us somewhere completely new. So the lines in the textile cannot be perfect. I don't want perfect streets, and I don't want perfect stitches, because life doesn't have them either. There are pieces of old clothing here, and that too has begun to feel important to me. Every one of them used to be something else: a sweater, a skirt, scarf. Someone may say that I'm collecting old rags. Maybe I am, but for some reason I find textiles fascinating. You can cut a piece of fabric, divide it, rearrange it, ask, what can it become? And perhaps sometimes we can ask exactly the same question about ourselves. Instead of asking, why did this end? Instead of asking, Why didn't it turn out the way I imagined? I can ask, what can I make from what remains? A red thread also appears on this map, just like in the previous textile I made. Sometimes it is thin, sometimes it becomes thick, almost aggressive. Sometimes it disappears underneath other materials, and for a while I can't see it at all. But then it appears again. And I think this is how I would like to think about life. Not as a straight road leading from one goal to the next, but rather as an enormous textile that we are building without knowing how it will look like when it is finished. We add one piece, then another. Sometimes we undo something. Sometimes we use something that once seemed completely useless. And we keep going. Later, flowers will begin to appear on this textile. But I don't want them to grow from a beautiful, peaceful garden. I want them to appear right here, between the gray streets, between the black, between the traces of the red thread, because perhaps that is where we need them most. Not when everything is perfect, but right in the middle of the ordinary grayness. I will keep working on this textile and on these flowers. I will find the time somewhere between the work and everything else that needs to be done. This is what life is all about. Not getting rid of the gray, but noticing from time to time the red thread running through it. And sometimes completely unexpectedly finding a place between the gray lines where a flower can grow, even if it's made from an old sweater.